Today, our focus is on how to draw a rectangle in AutoCAD. Some important tips that most of the tutorials on AutoCAD have never focused on that. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey there, and welcome to YouTube series Learning AutoCAD 2025 from Basic. Thanks for selecting these tutorials for learning AutoCAD. And I promise, if you'll be with me during these tutorials, your learning will be in a progress. So today we will focus on how to draw a rectangle in AutoCAD. I will inform you some tips that you have never heard about them. Are you ready? Let's go. Like our previous procedures, at first we will call our command. We have different ways. We can directly come, for example, here on the rectangle part, and by having a left click on that, we can activate it. Here it gives us information that you can draw a rectangle by having 2 points. What are the points? It means that the first point that you select and the opposite in the edge of that other corner is the way of drawing the rectangle. We can draw different ways by having, for example, the length and also the width. We can rotate our rectangle, or we have at the edges different patterns like the fillet pattern, chamfer pattern, or square patterns. What are they? Don't worry, we will go one by one. Now I activate it. Now my rectangle is activated by having a left click on this icon. Now I can come here. I can specify my start point as an exact point or an approximate point. What I say, for example, I want to start from point 2, 2. Now my first point is selected here. As it shows, I can, for example, approximately say that this rectangle is enough for me. By clicking on the opposite corner, it's done. Now I have my rectangle. But to be exact, the other way of calling the rectangle is using its alias, which is rec, or we can type the command rectangle in full form. But if I type rec, R-E-C, and enter, now again, similar to the previous one, I activate my command. Now I come to this part, I select this point. Here, you see that I have 3 subcommands. In previous before selecting, I have other subcommands, but when we select the first point, we have 3 subcommands, which is area, dimension, and rotation. What are they? Let's go one by one. For example, in some cases, you have the area of a rectangle and one length of that in a project. You don't want to calculate, for example, divide the area by one of the dimensions, then have the other dimension. So what do? You use this command. For example, I can directly come to click on area, or I can type A and having this. What is the area of my, for example, rectangle? I say it's maybe, for example, 10. Now, which one here says you want to select as your known dimension? Is the length or width? I say no. I know the length of that, and says that what is your length? I want to do an easy example, then you can do in your project based on your need. But I say, for example, the length is 2. So now the width will be 5 automatically. If I say enter, now it shows that the dimension of here, the length is 2, but for the dimension of the width, it's 5. So 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. The other way, I call again my rectangle, and I select, for example, now this point. The other way is giving the dimensions directly. What I mean by that, I can type D and enter. Here, I can say that, similar to this one, my length is 2, enter. My width is 5, enter. I have exactly the same rectangle, but now our command is not finished. Why? I can select that on which part of our, if you consider a circle, in which part of that circle, 4 part of circle, you want to select this. Are you selecting in this part? My mouse is here. I can come to this part, say that no, here. I can come to bottom, say here, or this part. I say no, I want to this form, and I By having a left click on that, I can finish my job. Now I recall my command again and I select this point. This time I say that my rectangle or my project in a way that I need to give a rotation. For example, the rectangle is in an inclined form of 45 degrees. For doing this, I can type R or directly come to this part and select this subcommand. I say R, enter. Now says that what is your angle? We learned that when we give an angle, it's in counterclockwise form, the positive of that. If I say 45, it shows that it's this incline. So I say 45, enter, but it's not finished now. Why? Here I need to give the length and width. As you can see, we have the same subcommands again active. We can use the area or dimension. I say that no, I want to give the dimension, and by giving the dimension, I want the same of my previous example. The length is 2. This time, let's give the length 5 and the width 2. As you can see, again, it's not finished. I want to select in which part I want to choose my rectangle, in this part, in this part, in this part, or in this part. I say this time I select in this part of. Now, I have told you the different ways. We learned by giving the dimension, we learned by giving the area, we learned how to rotate it. But let's come to this information part. I select my rectangle. You may say that we learned that we can use dynamic input as our relative coordinates. Yes? Yeah, I say it's true again. I select my first point. This time, I want to change my rotation. How can I do that? I want to give it in the 0 rotation format. I can type, this time let's do this. I directly come on this part and give 0 value and enter. This time now it's in horizontal form. I want to say that for giving the dimensions, you don't need to, for example, come to this dimension part because we have selected this. If we give the first value, it understands that it's our length. By comma and giving the second value, it understands that it's our width. Let's see if it works or not. For our previous example, it was 2 and 5. I say 2, comma, 5. It's true. So because it works in relative coordinates and it works similar to the other one. But be careful. If we use the absolute coordinate, we can use the absolute coordinates. If you want to learn more how to make them active, you can get back to our previous tutorials. But until this part, we understood that it works like a relative coordinates, the dynamic input, and we, instead of coming to dimension and giving the values and entering them one by one, we can directly give it in relative coordinates form. But we have other subcommands. Let's see them too. I activate this. Here you have 5 subcommands before selecting the point, because if I, for example, select the first corner, I have 3 subcommands. I cannot do anything else. Here I say that among these 5 subcommands, what is the first one? It's chamfer. It means that the edges are in truncated form. It means that consider a triangle which shows the first value that we give here, the horizontal value, and the second value, the vertical value. If we give that values, consider it's a triangle that we cut it from the edge of our rectangle. We will learn completely about them in modify part of the conducting chamfer. Just as a simple example we will do here. I say that I activate my chamfer by typing C. Now it is activated. Here says that what is the first distance for your chamfer? It means that the horizontal one that you want to cut it. I say that for this example, I consider 2 as horizontal, enter, and 3 as vertical. It's like a triangle that will be cut from my rectangle. Now I select the first corner. It might be here. And when I say I wanna to select the edge of that corner, I say, for example, it needs to be 20. And when I say enter, you see that in this direction, the value of 2 as you can see, 2, and in this direction, the value of 3. Let me find exactly this value. 3 is cut from my edges. Similar to this, instead of having this kind of truncated form, we can have a fillet form. What is the meaning of that? Having a radius, the round form. How to activate that? We can come and select fillet. When I select fillet, I say that I give the fillet radius of 2, for example, by having enter. Now, this time, as you can see, when I draw, instead of being a chamfer, this time it's in fillet form, the round form with radius of 2. It means that the dimension that I give here, the radius of this part is 2. It was also information about the fillet, how drawing the fillet rectangle. The other elevation, it depends on 3D form. So now our focus in 2D. Elevation means that conducting it in an elevated based on the z direction. Now what we draw is on x and y direction, and z value is 0 intrinsically. So it gives that information. Thickness gives us the height of that. If we, for example, draw a cube, for drawing that, we need also a height. Thickness gives that value. Again, we don't need that because it's on 3D form. The last one is width. You remember the polyline. In polyline, we were able to draw by giving a width to our lines. Similar to that, if I type W and say that I want the width to be 0.5, enter. If I draw it, now you can see it gives a width to that. And why is it in the fillet form? Because it remembers from our previous command. What was that? We activated the fillet. And because our fillet was 2, now it's activated. If we want to get out of these commands, means that chamfer or fillet, we can call this rectangle, and for chamfer, it's now remembers from previous step. It's 2. I say 0, enter, 0, enter. And for fillet, I can come and say it's now, because I changed the chamfer to 0, it's intrinsically changed to 0. I can say 0 and enter. If I draw a line now, it brings me a rectangle with an edge. It was all the information from A to Z about drawing a rectangle in AutoCAD. Next session, we will focus on how to draw a polygon. We will learn different methods and different ways of drawing polygon in AutoCAD. If you want to improve your knowledge and skill on working in AutoCAD and become from a basic learner to an advanced learner, be with me during these tutorials because they are from basic to advanced. If it was useful for you, like it, share it with your friends to let others join our community. Subscribe to our channel to see our new uploaded videos. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. Thanks for watching, best wishes, take care, and goodbye.